If you guys want to know the best healing cocktail of peptides, I'm going to tell you in 2 minutes. Stay tuned. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Standing here with my good friend Bruce from Legendary Foods, and they have done it again. Mac and cheese. 47 grams of protein, only 7 net carbs. I can't tell the difference between this and regular. I highly recommend you try this. I love it. Check it out at legendaryfoods.com.
Energy pouches are the wave of the future, and Underrated Muscles Locked In is first to bring it to you. With between 50 and 100 milligrams of caffeine per pouch, you can dial in the quick, clean energy and focus you need on the go. Simple, easy to use. Pop one between your cheek and gum to get you through your day, to get you through your workout. Code RX20, underratedmuscle.com. Get locked in today.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, the Thanksgiving edition of Ask Dave. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your weekly question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, be it bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, diet, training, supplementation, this is your forum to get your questions in for Dave Palumbo. We're going to go right into the questions. The first 2 questions on the show from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I'm a 34-year-old female looking to utilize peptides to help with anti-aging and overall health. I've had a kidney transplant, so your opinion on taking Glow, if you think it would have any benefit, and if so, dosing protocols. If not this peptide, is there a better protocol you could recommend? Again, keeping in mind that she recently had a kidney transplant.
You know, I find it interesting when people just use like these acronyms, or they use these like just these like brand names that people make up for things like Glow. Like, I happen to know what she's talking about, but most people would never know. It's a cocktail of 3 peptides: the BPC 157, TB 500, and one of the copper peptides. It's like a three, I guess, peptide, combination that seems to hit different angles of healing. Now we know that. Well, at least I've advocated for BPC 157, as I think that's the strongest healing peptide. I've combined it with TB 500, and as you know, our friends at TitanMedicalCenter.com, they had a combination of the TB 500 and the BPC 157, and just recently they launched a new combination that has all 3 of them in it, which she's calling Glow, but I think they have a different name for it at Titan. And it comes all in one. So you can take one shot, you get all 3 of them in the same thing. And it's, once again, the copper peptide has been known for its healing effects for many years in the hair restoration business. Because back in 2000, when I got some hair grafts done, they were giving us copper peptide shampoo to shampoo your hair with the week after the implant. It's supposed to help the healing process. And I hadn't really heard too much about it until then. Obviously, the last several years, they brought it in as an injectable. And once again, it has some healing properties that seem to work really nice synergistically with the BPC 157 and TB 500. So I think that would be relatively safe. I would obviously get clearance from your transplant doctor. Anytime you get any kind of an organ transplant, they put you on anti-rejection drugs, which really suppress your immune system. I don't think the peptides would be a problem, but I would always defer to the doctor who did the surgery to make sure there is no contraindication. I think after you've had the replacement and once the kidney transplant has been at least a year or so old, I think then you kind of can use pretty much what you want. But usually that first 6 months to 12 months, they want to kind of watch what you're taking just to make sure that your body doesn't reject the organ. So like I said, check with your doctor. But that 3 peptide cocktail seems to be the new formula for healing.
Second question, again, these first 2 from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. bear with me. I think this was a Google Translate question. T3 usage for contest prep. How likely is using T3 to permanently damage my thyroid hormones? I'm scared to change my natural balance afterwards. And I guess really goes on to question about contest prep PEDs, anabolics, T3 claim. But I think the concern is about permanent damage to thyroid hormones.
Yeah, thyroid hormone is pretty much a simple feedback loop. Okay, when I say that, I mean that T3, which is active thyroid hormone, okay, is what tells the brain whether there's enough of what the body needs present. If there isn't, okay, if there's not enough T3, which is active thyroid hormone, then what happens is the hypothalamus in the brain releases a hormone known as thyrotropic releasing hormone, which then stimulates another gland in your brain known as the pituitary gland to release thyroid stimulating hormone, which then stimulates the thyroid gland to release thyroxine or T4. T4 is an inactive form of thyroid hormone. It converts in the body as needed to T3, which is the active form, triiodothyronine, and that's what controls your metabolic rate. Now, if you take T3, and that's why we always say if you're going to take any kind of thyroid hormone, you don't want to take T4 because it's inactive. The only people that take T4 are people like myself who don't have a thyroid gland or who have low thyroid output, because what we're doing is you're giving your body the precursor, and then my body will convert what it needs into T3, just like a person who has a sluggish thyroid would do that. But if you're doing contest prep and you're trying to burn fat, you want to take the active thyroid hormone. Now, if you take active T3 and you're taking more than your body needs, what will happen is your hypothalamus will stop producing as much thyrotropic releasing hormone, and then the pituitary will stop releasing as much thyroid stimulating hormone, and T4 output will decrease because it doesn't need to be there because you're replacing your output. When you stop the T3, once again, T3 levels will drop. Your brain, your hypothalamus will sense that there's very low T3 around, and then thyrotropic releasing hormone will start being produced again. So taking T3 is not going to permanently suppress your thyroid gland. But what does happen on occasion is people take T3 for fat loss because they're having trouble losing body fat. And then when they stop it, their gland never turns back on. Now, in those cases, I'm convinced that 99.9% of those cases are cases that the person had low thyroid output to begin with. They never knew it. They took T3. They had amazing results from it. And then when they stopped it, they realized that they were low because they had never really gotten their thyroid gland tested. So T3 very, very, very infrequently. I'm not going to say it never happens because it might. Very infrequently permanently suppresses your thyroid gland. If your thyroid is low after taking T3, it's more than likely because of the fact that you were low previous to that. So I don't see any harm in taking it as long as you're not excessively doing it. I would never increase dosage over 100 micrograms per day. I think that's a reasonable amount. And you want to really, really increase your dosage very slowly up to that dose. You don't want to do it over the course of 2 weeks. You want to do it over the course of 12 weeks. Having said that, these two questions are from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. I know we're pressed for time, so I'm not going to go into it. But if you want to subscribe, it's a great stocking stuffer for someone you care about. It's $29 a month. You get me as your coach in your back pocket. You get access to all my videos and writings I've ever done. I do a Q&A video exclusively to the app members every single week. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum in the app, so you see everyone's questions and answers. And all my protocols are up there. My keto diet, my cyclical keto diet, my off-season diets, all my drug cycles, beginners, advanced, men, women. It's a great resource to have in your back pocket, and it's constantly evolving. So I appreciate all the support for that app over the last couple of years that we've had it, and that's why I keep doing it. And once again, if you're looking to educate yourself and stay educated, it's a great buy for you.
Before we go to the rest of the questions, our friends at Titan Medical Center. Now, Dave, I don't know if you actually have the list in front of you, but here, let me pull up the graphic. They are introducing 8 new Titan therapies in terms of their overall menu of therapies. Do you have those in front of you, or?
I don't. I know you're pressed for time, so I don't want to start looking for it. But
you can go for it. Just full disclosure, as far as why we're pressed for time right now, we have a sale, and we're hoping that this episode goes up today, Wednesday, because we have a Thanksgiving sale going live tonight at midnight. It is only a 1-day sale. We're going to tease the sale much later on in the evening, but we promise it'll be worth it, and you're not going to have many more of these opportunities in the calendar year 2025.
It's a one-day sale too. But as far as Titan goes, they have the Titan Transformation Stack, which is their AOD 9604, MOTS-C, tesamorelin, and ipamorelin. So that's all together. The Recovery Stack, which I talked about earlier, which is the BPC 157, TV 500, and the copper peptide. They have the Ultraman Stack, which is if you have erection issues, you get basically Cialis and Viagra together with apomorphine. And then they have the Glow package, which is another healing peptide package with the that has not only BPC, TB 500, and the copper peptide, but also has the KPV also. So they have so many therapies on sale right now, and I'm sure it's all for Black Friday. So you got to check it out at TitanMedicalCenter.com. Tell them Dave Palumbo and RX Muscle sent you. You're going to get a great discount.
So go check them out. Our friends at TitanMedicalCenter.com, as Dave mention RX Muscle or Dave Palumbo, and they will give you the royal hookup. Let's go to the rest of our questions. How would you go about using EQ on a cut with test and vice versa to bulk?
The dosages are pretty much the same on a cut or a bulk with the EQ. I mean, the effective dose of EQ that I find that works best is anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams a week. So depending on how much testosterone you're using, that would dictate how much EQ you're using. If you're using 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week, you can go up to 500-600 milligrams of EQ a week. If you're only using, some people don't want to take 1,000 milligrams. They want to take less. They want to take 500 milligrams. I would stay with 300 milligrams of EQ in that case. I always like to have more testosterone than the anabolic present. EQ is great. It doesn't really have any side effects. To me, it's probably the one drug that really opens your appetite up a lot. So it's great off season when you have trouble eating. I always tell people it's way harder to eat when you're not hungry than to, suffer a little bit when you're dieting. Because when you're dieting, yeah, it sucks, but at least you want to eat your meals. But if you don't feel hungry and you have to jam food down your throat, I was very good at it, but a lot of people are not good at that. So EQ definitely opens up the appetite. So because I think it has very low toxicity, and it also increases red blood cell count a little bit more than the average. I think that's why they always used it on the horses, because it boosted red blood cell count, obviously, which increases oxygen carrying capacity. If you're a little bit of an older bodybuilder, you don't want to have too many red blood cells. But when you're younger and you're training hard, extra red blood cells means you can push harder in the gym. So it gives some great pumps as well. And like I said, I haven't seen any. In my experience and the athletes I work with, very few people have any problems with it as far as side effects go. And I think that's why it's well tolerated and why people find it to be one of the best drugs to use.
A question from a natural bodybuilder. I'm a natural with moderate hormone levels. Only thing out of the normal ranges, I have high luteinizing hormone. Is there anything to do with diet or supplements to better utilize the high LH to produce more endogenous testosterone?
Well, if you have high LH, it means that your body feels like it's not producing enough testosterone, because what the LH is usually, the luteinizing hormone is usually directly stimulates the Leydig cells to produce testosterone. So if you have high LH, it's like your body telling you there's not enough testosterone present. So I don't know if his testicles are limited by how much they can produce, and that's the problem, and the body wants his body to produce more, but it's just not doing it. Or there's some other reason. I mean, some people could have small pituitary tumors that will cause the pituitary to release certain hormones. He could have a luteinizing, hormone. It seems unlikely that it would only produce luteinizing hormone. I've seen like prolactin tumors that crank out a ton of prolactin from the pituitary, but I haven't really seen luteinizing hormone. I have to believe that maybe something is just not high enough in his body, and his body is trying to, get more out. I don't know why his testicles would be limited in their production of testosterone, but usually we see in bodybuilders low LH, low FSH, because they're taking exogenous sources of testosterone. I very rarely ever hear of someone saying they have high LH or high FSH. Usually that means that the gland that it's trying to stimulate is not keeping up with production. So I don't know if his testicles are just not able to produce enough testosterone. That could be the case.
Question about off-season insulin usage, your protocol that you advise to your clients for off-season insulin usage.
I don't really, there's not that many athletes that I work with that I actually advocate like a fast acting insulin for. There's a couple, like they have crazy freaking metabolisms and they just don't grow if you don't need it. But usually 90% of the time that I'm advocating insulin usage, it's the long acting insulins because they're a person's fasting blood sugars are high, meaning they're not, their fasting blood sugars should be under 90. They're in either the high 90s or low 100s, which is too high. And usually when I put those people on a long-acting insulin, we bring down those fasting numbers. Number one, they feel better. Number two, they grow much better because now they're absorbing their food more efficiently. And obviously, by keeping blood sugars lower, you're going to be healthier too, because we know that high blood sugars over a long period of time can cause dementia and other problems, with eyesight and extremities and stuff like that. So my suggestion usually is if you're running high fasting blood sugars to take a long-acting insulin. Now, if you don't have any blood sugar issues and you're waking up routinely under 90, there's no reason to take more insulin because more is not better, right? And in some cases, more can get you fat. Now, usually long-acting insulins don't do that because if your body doesn't really need the insulin you're taking, even if you're taking a long-acting, it just won't produce more of its own. It'll cut back some of its own production. When you take a fast-acting insulin, however, like Novolog or Humalog, what happens is it drives stuff into the cells. So if the glycogen stores are filled, you're going to store body fat. And in people who are prone to get fat more easily, taking a fast-acting insulin is usually not a good idea because it does make them really fat. People with fast metabolisms obviously can get away with
that. Interesting one here. So, I guess they're asking from your perspective as a bodybuilding insider and someone that's been around the sport for as many years as you have, can you confirm whether some bodybuilders are actually, quote, afraid of blackface accusations due to their tan? Now, I guess they're bringing that up because there have been instances in which you'll have a white bodybuilder come out, their body's completely tan, yet, as he points out, their face is still completely white. And now we have seen a few instances of that this year. I don't know if you see any validity to that theory.
The reason I'm laughing is because my first bodybuilding show I ever did, there was no spray tanning or anything like that. We would buy a bottle of Protan and we would paint ourselves. And I painted my face, like as dark as my body, which you should never, your face should always be a little lighter than your body. It just doesn't look right. And I had these I have pretty big lips and, my father, remember this is 1990. My father says you look like you're going to a minstrel show. And I don't know if anyone knows what a minstrel shows where they used to do blackface, which was very inappropriate. He's like, you look like you're going to minstrel. I said, what do you mean? He goes, your lips, you got to paint your lips. They're all white. And your face is all black. So look, I've seen people make mistakes with how they put tanning on in it. And it's usually they don't know because it's their first show or maybe the second show. What my suggestion is, and usually if you hire a spray tanning company, now they'll tell you what to do, but you don't do your face. You do your face at the very last minute, like right before, like the day of the show. You don't, you might get spray tan the day before the show and the morning of the show, your body, but you don't do your face. You put the stuff on your face at the end because otherwise your face gets too dark and it doesn't look right. And some guys don't put anything on their face, or some women don't, or some they get their makeup done. And then the makeup artist doesn't know how to blend a darker, they put makeup on like they're going to go to the shopping mall. Meanwhile, you have to put darker makeup on to match your tan. So I've seen some mistakes being made where you see people's faces way too light. And that's the reason. They're just not matching the tan. And then in other cases, it's people that don't know any better and they're doing their own tan and they're painting their face as many times as they're painting their body. And the face is just too dark and it doesn't look right either. So no one's doing anything purposely. I think that people are just making, simple rookie mistakes. And, the best way to learn is by making mistakes. The smart way would be to hire a spray tanning company and just listen to their instructions and they'll tell you the right way to do it.
Melanotan 1. Can Melanotan 1 damage your kidneys?
Melanotan doesn't cause kidney damage, but what it does do, and I didn't, I used it a couple years back, and I noticed that my blood pressures were running higher. It somehow raises blood pressure. I don't know how it does it or why it does it, but you got to be careful if you take, if you take it on a regular basis, that your blood pressures don't start creeping up a little higher. So I guess if you were to take Melanotan every day, and your blood pressures were running high all the time, it can cause kidney damage over a long period of time. But it's not kidney toxic in and of itself, no.
Interesting one here regarding just coaching in general and the coaching client relationship or interaction, rather. When it comes to sending your coach weekly check-in updates in both pre-contest offseason, what is a reasonable time to give your coach time to get back to you, even if it's just to get a response from a question that you might have by your meal or supplements plan? And I know, we'll get this time to time again, especially pre-Olympia, pre-Arnold, pre-really big show, where a coach will just kind of put it out there. Hey, guys, listen, I'm going to be a little slow getting back to you. But in your experience, what is a reasonable timeline to expect a response to the most basic questions or a proper update?
I always get back within the same day. So if you send me an update in the morning or in the afternoon or at night, you're getting a response from me that day, unless I'm on an airplane someplace and I can't respond, which is very infrequently. If you have a quick question, I always encourage my clients to text that to me, because a text message I will respond instantly to. So I have a lot of clients that enjoy working with me because I get back to them very fast on updates. I never let an update get to the next day. It would have to be, like I said, I'd have to have a crazy long flight or something like that, like you're back from India or something like that. And even when I do stuff like that, I usually defer updates. I'm like, you know what? Don't send me an update while I'm flying. Send it another day. And so they know ahead of time, but I get back to my clients very, very fast. And one of the reasons I don't want this stuff to accumulate, the other thing is that I'm a neurotic and I don't like to let people down. So I think that if you don't get back the same day to a person on an update, that's a problem right then and there. If you have to beg your coach to get back to you. Now, I want to also put a proviso, because sometimes emails don't go through. That's why you should follow up with a text or something like that, because I have people that said they emailed me 4 times and I never got the email. So we had to fix that problem. That sometimes can be a problem. But yes, assuming there's no technical difficulties, coaches should get back to people on updates at least the same day. And I do 2 updates a week for all my clients. And like I said, I always tell my clients, if you have a quick question that's not super involved, text it to me so that I can answer you instantly on that. And there's no reason to have text messages go unanswered for hours and hours and hours, because most people are constantly checking their phone. And if you're going to be a coach and you're not going to check your phone, then you're doing a disservice to your clients.
Any Thanksgiving plans for you for tomorrow?
Nah, I got the kids tomorrow.
Nice.
We're going out to eat, and so Amon's coming with us with his girlfriend, so we'll have a little fun Thanksgiving day out. I was going to do something at my house, and then I realized I waited to the last minute to bring in the food, because I didn't want to cook it myself, but I was going to cater it in, and I waited an hour too late. They're like, "Oh, if you would have been here an hour ago, you could have ordered it." I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go out and take them out for a fancy Thanksgiving dinner. It doesn't matter. And I always tell people this, it doesn't matter what you eat for that. You can eat McDonald's, although McDonald's are not open on Thanksgiving, but you can eat anything you want for Thanksgiving. It's the company of the people that you're with that's important. Okay. So try to find someone that by the way, I got invited to a bunch of people's houses. Some of them were a little further away, and I didn't want to drive too far because I did have my kids this year. My friend Mike Popkin invites me every year, and I went there last year, but he's in Boca, and I didn't really want to sit in the car with the kids for 2.5 hours each way. And so it's great to spend Thanksgiving with people you love and that you care about, friends, whatever. It doesn't matter. I always have the ragtag crew. When I was back in New York, I would have everyone over for Thanksgiving. All the bodybuilders would come to my house. Even if they had their own Thanksgiving, they would come after they left their families. And that's what makes it so special. That's why, like I said, when we did the after hours show yesterday, that was our Thanksgiving together, hanging out. And I think the most important thing is just find someone. Don't be by yourself. Find someone that you can go to their house or at least stop by or be with, because it's the people you're with. It's not what you eat and not where you are.
Wise words. And on behalf of our entire team, Wishing you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving. As Dave said, make sure to spend it with loved ones, friends, family. Enjoy, eat up, and of course, keep an eye out for speciesnutrition.com's Thanksgiving sale. Details will drop in a matter of a few hours, U.S. Eastern Standard Time. It is only a one-day sale, so you're going to want to act fast because this opportunity is only going to be for a span of 24 hours, and then it's over. Happy Thanksgiving from our entire team, and that'll do it for this episode of Ask Dave.